Shalom Akim, all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Kokadash. Double honor to Apostle of Great Millstone. Say to you, Akim, doing the work of truth, sincerity. I'm going to read this copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. So we'll play a minute or so of this video here, which is WLA, the news channel, and basically this is one of the Iranian representatives at the Security Council. And matter of fact, before I do that, let me read this. This is Revelations 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And that third woe is on its way. You know, we're not officially in World War III just yet because the other superpowers haven't got involved. Well, basically Russia and China, because the BRICS nations will get involved eventually once the NATO nations get involved. But this is Iran's response to the other EU nations or allied American nations' response to their response to the Israeli American allied attack against them.
Iran does not seek war. Iran does not seek escalation, but Iran will not surrender its sovereignty. As long as aggression continues, Iran will defend itself decisively and without hesitation.
Now, Abdullah, what was the rationale behind attacking other countries, including Iraq, the UAE, Qatar, and some other countries, Iraqi Kurdistan as well?
As I mentioned, we are not attacking the interests of our neighboring countries. We are defending ourselves. We are targeting the facilities and the bases and the assets of the United States in this country, in those countries which is out of the control of the host countries.
And hey, ain't that the same thing that the Israelis say? You know, they defending themselves against the Palestinians and shit, you know. But in this case, he's actually on 100% on point. You know, they're attacking assets of America and the Israelis. And yes, I'm calling them Israelis on purpose. If you want to know why, go to etymology.com. Go to the etymology of the word Israeli. That's what they call themselves, and that's what they are, because they're not Israelites. They're Israelis. And I wanted to also play a soundbite of a video from, what is his name, Glenn Dyson. It's called Douglas McGregor. New world emerges, Iran will win, and Israel may not survive. So I'm going to play a soundbite from this, about a good minute long, and I'm going to read one more scripture.
In interstate confidence. You know, we've once again demonstrated conclusively that we're completely unreliable. You know, I've been saying for months that the decision to attack Iraq is made. And it was. It was only a question of when, never if. Yet we continued with the fiction that there were negotiations underway. This has hurt us with Russia. It's hurt us with China. It's destroyed us in the Middle East. We are rapidly following Israel into this corner reserved for pariah states. You know, for instance, the Indians depend on 2.6 million barrels of oil from the Persian Gulf to flow into their ports every day. You know, when that closes, every Indian family is going to effectively be made to pay a war tax that they never voted for. A $10 rise in crude means $15 billion in terms of the burden on the Indian economy.
What the hell? They doing a commercial, and this did not happen the first time. That's okay. Let me get past this commercial. But anyway, the point was made anyway, because he said that, he's a retired colonel from the United States, a retired military colonel from the United States. And he basically said that United States is rapidly following Israel
Think in those terms. We don't think
as a
of what the
pariah
impact
state.
is on others. There's no sense of this sort of thing, and we're going to pay. I think we're going to pay a terrible price, Glenn, and it's only just beginning.
Yeah, and that's the other part that I wanted to be played. You know, Edomites, so-called white people. What in the fuck? Salakia. I live in an apartment complex, and there's people living upstairs. I don't know what the fuck they doing, but they bumping loud as hell. So Salakia. But anyway, yeah. Basically, he's being realistic about what's about to happen. Edomites don't think about, don't think about the other nations when they doing they BS, nor do they think about the consequences of their actions. And he's basically saying, hey, they rapidly following Israel as a pariah state, untouchable. Stay away from this diseased motherfucker, basically. And he's saying, since they don't care about other motherfuckers' feelings, other states' feelings, the other states ain't gonna care about theirs, and they gonna pay. And like I said, this is a retired colonel. What is it? A retired colonel and former advisor to the Secretary of Defense, Douglas McGregor, and he's talking to Professor Glenn Dyson. So, they know what's coming down the pipeline. And really, they thinking that Iran is going to win and the other states going to kick America out, and America is going to become a third world country, which is all true and all. However, no, missiles are going to be shot over here. America is going to be a desert eventually, and us Israelites are going to rule under Yahweh Shai once he returns. Now, those are prophecies it's not too far off, but it's going to happen after the mark of the beast is declared. And I was watching, I believe it was Apostles video, where they already then started to try to put Jake as the face of terrorism. They got a bald-faced, bald-headed black dude with a hoodie on, talking about property of Allah, saying that he committed some type of terrorist attack and they had to gun him down. And just like the apostles believe, I also believe this is all a distraction from the Epstein files. Everybody knows that the American president is a child lover, a boy, one of those boy lovers, if you get my drift. So they're trying to distract everybody from that fact. And they're trying to distract everybody from the fact that the true Israelites are rising up. The so-called Negroes, Indians, Latinos are claiming to be the true descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, while also explaining the true descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Esau as the so-called white man. For the most part. So, we know about nation mixing, but that's on a small scale. That's not on a very large scale. And yes, those people calling themselves the Israelis, the JOOs, yeah, they're imposters. They're the seed of Esau. Just like the so-called white man, probably about 90% are the seed of Esau. So, I'm going to read this, Jeremiah 49:20. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath proposed against the inhabitants of Teman, which was a chief city of Edom back then. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. And just like retired Colonel Douglas McGregor was saying, America then followed Israel into being a pariah state. So the least of the flock surely then drew them out. Earlier in the video, probably at about maybe 5 to 7 minutes, he was saying how the first one to strike was the Israelis. And America, wanting to ally themselves with them, followed up. So the least of the flock drew them out, drew America out. Basically, since they attacked, America had to attack. And then proving that the so-called white man is Edom, and this was a future prophecy in Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, in the 45th verse, it says the same thing, only it replaces Edom with Babylon and Teman with the Chaldeans, which is the sorcerer class. And I'm going to read it. Therefore hear ye the counsel of Yahweh, that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he hath proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. So yes, America and Israel is going to go, extinct during the Third World War. And like I said, we ain't exactly in World War III yet. They calling it a conflict between Iran, Israel, and the U.S. right now. However, when the other superpowers get involved, hey, that's World War III. This is basically the beginning. But like I said, they just not calling it yet. So, hey, the next major thing, all hell breaking loose, and the MO to the TB is coming out. So, with that, I'm going to close. Hope you Akim were edified. Till the next time, all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Kakadash. Double honors to the Apostle of Great Millstone, and salutation to you Akim doing the work in truth and sincerity. Till the next time, Shalom.